Hello, Damien here from Cloud Technology Experts. In this video, I'm going to show you how to connect to our ec2 instance, which we created in the previous video. Now, if you have been following this project, you will discover that we're trying to build a secured website, and once we finish doing that on ec2, we will do it on containers and we will do it on Kubernetes platform. Here on the website of cloudtechnologyexperts.com, you have it all documented here that you can follow through. So today, we are on step 3, connect to ec2 instance. And if you scroll down, you will see the guideline on how to do that. So we're right here, connect to ec2 instance and install Apache web server. So pretty much, the way you connect to an AWS ec2 instance depends on the laptop that you're using. We're going to use a tool called SSH. And the way you use SSH is different from different operating systems. If we're using it from Windows, we need to install something called Putty. If we're using it from Linux or Mac, which are quite similar, Linux and Mac are quite similar, you just use SSH client. You will notice that on every Windows machine, Putty is not installed, so we have to install it. At the same time, on a Linux or Mac machine, often SSH client is always installed by default. But it's not just about the laptop or the client. You can also look at the server that you're trying to connect to. And if you're connecting to Windows or you're connecting to Linux, the processes are different. So I have this diagram here for you to see which client you're using and where you're connecting to. This is important because we're going to be using an SSH key pair. And for the key pair, you can either use .pem extension or you can use .ppk. It's only Putty that uses ppk, so every other thing, feel free to use .pem. So here are the summary of the steps. Let's assume you have a Windows laptop and you're connecting to a Windows server on AWS. Then you're going to use RDP client. RDP client is basically an SSH client, and this is already pre-configured or installed in your Windows laptop. And the extension of the key that you need to use is .pem. That is the key you need to have, .pem. If you are connecting to Linux server from Windows, then you're going to use Putty. Putty is not installed by default, so you need to install it. And the key extension you use is going to be a .ppk. So that is a scenario using Windows laptop. Let's look at a scenario where you're using either a Mac laptop or a Linux laptop, because the process is the same for both of them. So let's assume you're connecting to a Windows server from a Linux or a Mac laptop. You're going to use an RDP client. RDP client is already pre-installed, so you just have to use a .pem key. And finally, if you are trying to connect from a Linux or Mac laptop to a Linux server, which is this scenario here, you will need an SSH client. SSH client is pre-installed, like I said earlier, and the key you will need is a .pem. In this case, again, remember, you need to change the permission of the key to either 600 or 400. If you're familiar with Linux, we use a command called chmod, and then we need to put the permissions that we require for the key. And I'll show you an example when I do this. For example, you can see here chmod 600 key.pem. In this case, key.pem is the name of the key. So of course, if you're doing this, you need to make sure you change the name of this key to the name of the key that you actually have on your system. All right, with that introduction, we're going to connect to our ec2 instance. We'll do that in 4 ways. First, we're going to connect from the AWS Management Console, like I did in the other video. Secondly, we're going to connect from a Mac laptop, then from a Windows laptop, and from a Linux laptop. So 4 different ways. So let's get started. So I'm here on my AWS Management Console, and right here you can see the secure website ec2 instance that we created earlier. If you want to see the key that was attached to this ec2 instance, you can always scroll to the right. So you scroll to the right here, you see that's the key there called secured website. Like I explained yesterday, when you create a key pair, the public key is stored in AWS and the private key gets downloaded to your laptop. So you need to ensure you know the location of the key that you're trying to use. So let's get started. Step 1 is to connect from here. This is pretty easy. Just click on connect. And when you come here, take note of this. The username here is ec2-user. This is specific to Amazon Linux. Or if you're using any of the Red Hat based distributions, it's going to be ec2-user. If you're connecting to another server with a different AMI, like Ubuntu, the username is always Ubuntu. And if you're connecting to Windows, the username is always administrator. These are the default usernames. You can create new users and you can give them different usernames, but these are the default. All right, so now let's just click on connect and wait for it to connect. There you go. So now we have our server and we have been able to connect to it. Secondly, I'm going to use my Mac machine. So here I'm going to come to my shell, and I already have my shell here. I need to make sure I am in the directory where my key is. Otherwise, I need to specify the path to the key before I can use it. That is very important. Make sure you can find the key. That's what I'm saying. So let's get started. We need the command SSH. Then put -i. Then specify the key. I want to specify the location of the key, so I'm going to put a tilde to indicate the home directory. And this key is in download, so I'm going to say secure website.pem, and then I need to put the username ec2-user at the IP address. So I need to come back here to get the IP address. I can get it from here, and then I can come back to my shell and paste it there. So take note, SSH-i, the location of the key, then the username, and the IP address. This is the public IP address. Don't use the private, because the private will not connect from the internet. So let me enter. It's asking me a security question. I will say yes. And now I've connected. I'm in my remote server. How do I know? Look at it here. It said ec2-user at the IP address. This IP address, as you can notice, is different from the IP address that we actually put here. This IP address is the private IP address. Let's go take a look. So this IP here is a private, and this is a public. You cannot connect to this from your home, so you need to use this. But this is the one that is used to indicate that it has actually connected. This is ending in 244. And that's the IP right there, 244. All right, so this is how you connect from a Mac. Let me exit this. To exit, just type exit. I'm back to my laptop. You can see that the name here has changed. Now, let me show you the permission of the key, because before you connect from a Linux or a Mac, you must have to change the permission of the key to be either 600 or 400. As a matter of fact, I always use 600. So let's see. So if you do ls-al secure website, it's showing me here that the permission is only read-write for the owner of the file. So that's what I want. Any other permission here is not going to let me connect. Okay, let's move on to Linux. On my laptop here, I have an Ubuntu virtual machine and a Windows virtual machine. So first I'm going to connect to my Linux virtual machine and show you how to connect from there, and then I'll come back to my Windows virtual machine and show you how to connect from Windows. Alright, so here's my Ubuntu virtual machine and here's my Windows virtual machine. So let's start with the Ubuntu virtual machine first. So I'm going to click on that and let me make that bigger, and then I log in. So now that I log in, I'm going to go to my shell and I need to see where I am. I already have my key here. Remember, you need to have your key wherever you want to connect from. And I already have my key here, which I already copied over. So let's try to connect from here. SSH -I. Remember, this process is the same as that with Mac. So the IP address here is 388.188.177. So I come here and I put the IP 3.88.188.177 and I say enter, and I need to say yes. And see what it's saying. It's saying that this file has bad permissions. So pretty much it's saying that I cannot use this key. So it hasn't logged me on. It just stopped here because the key permission is not good. That is what I was saying to you earlier. You need to make sure the permissions of the key is correct. And if I want to see the permissions of this file, I need to do ls-al secure website and look at the permission. Read write for the owner, read write for the group, and read for every other person. We need to change that to chmod 600 secure website. Now I need to do up arrow and see if I can now connect. Okay, it's still saying that permission is denied. So let's do ls-al. Okay, the permission is correct, but it's not connected. So let's see what might be going on. Let's try it again. You say there's an error. Okay, what could be happening here is that I copied the key here, but maybe I didn't copy it correctly. Okay, so let me copy this key from my laptop to the Ubuntu server. So I'm going to use the command scp to copy the file -i secure website, and that is the same key I'm going to copy. So secure website, then I'm going to put my name at 192.168.64. I'm looking at this IP address here, 64.5. And then I'm going to put it in the home directory. Okay, let's copy this file over. Okay, so we copied the file over. Let's go now to my Ubuntu server. Let me clear the screen. And this is the key. Okay, that is the key we just copied over. So now let's try to connect. And there we go. So now we have been able to connect to the server ec2-user at that IP address, and you know is showing us this is Amazon Linux. So now we have been able to connect from Linux machine as well. So the final step is to learn how to connect from Windows. So to connect from Windows, again, I have my Windows virtual machine. And for this one, we need to use Putty to connect. But take note, the key I have here is a .pem key. So we need to convert the key from .pem to .ppk. To do that, I need to use a tool called Polygen. Polygen gets installed anytime you install Putty. So let's go here. And first, let me look for Polygen to convert the key. And I need to do load. Then I have my key on the C drive. So I'll come here. And I'm going to say all files. So that's my key. That's my secure website.pem. I'm going to load that key. Open. Okay, successfully imported. Just say OK. So once you do that, just say save private key. And there's a warning. I say yes. And I'm going to give it the same name. Secure website. I'm going to change it here to .ppk. And here it's better to put all files and just say save. And say yes, it's saying I don't have permissions. Okay, so far it hasn't saved it. Let's see why it's not saving it. Secure website. Cancel. Save private key. Yes. And we're going to save it. Maybe let's save it to desktop, see where it's easy to save it. Or let's go to documents and say secure website. And let's give it a ppk. And let's say save. All right. Looks like this one has saved it this time. So let's check. And there we have our key. Now we have our Putty key has been created. Once you have that, just come here and cancel out this one. So first step, convert the key. Second, let's try to connect. To connect, we need Putty. This is Putty here. And we need the IP address of this server. And if we want, we can put ec2-user at the IP address, which is 3.88.188.177. And we need to put the key. To put the key, we need to come down here, click on SSH, click on auth, click on browse, and we pick our ppk from documents. So open and just say open. You can say accept. There we go. Now we have connected to our ec2 instance from Windows. Very good. So you can see 4 different ways that we're connected to this ec2 instance. From the management console, from Mac, from Linux, and now from Windows. Take note of these processes because whichever one you use just depends on which operating system you're using. Okay, so that is the aim of this video, to show you different ways of connecting to your ec2 instance running Amazon Linux from different environments. I hope you find that useful, and in the next video, we're going to start our installation of the web server that we have been preparing for. And I hope to see you there. Thank you.